welcome to the session on exploratory data analysis. Just a quick review on what the problem set we are solving. We are working on the Iowa liquor retail sales. We have data since January 1st to date. The last time I checked, the data was updated till 31st of August. And the problem set that we are looking into was broken down into four parts. The first part was how to set up the project. The second part was to exploratory data analysis. Third part is forecasting, and fourth part is to design an architecture where we can scale. So we're going to focus today on the exploratory data analysis part. And what's important about exploratory data analysis, and it's overlooked quite often for a lot of reasons. So for some people it's tedious, for some people it's not interesting enough. But this is a very, very important part of any analysis that you do. It gives you a purview of what your problem set looks like and what you're trying to learn. So the exploratory, for me, there are like three major benefits. Sometimes it's the most important part of machine learning. It gives you a good idea about the data and in-depth knowledge of how you should be exploring the problem. And lastly, it also helps you to define the scope of the problem you're trying to solve. So some of the simple questions that we could answer previously. I also ask you these questions. How many stores are active? How many items are active? This sort of helps you broaden your scope in how you're understanding, and I'll show you some examples of how we have utilized this to come up with better modeling. There are the tools that we most often use. These are the four different tools that I most often use. I've made a link of Tableau, so you can go and see what I did in the Tableau, and I'll take you through the tutorial on this also, and then you can see my collab link on the EDA liquor sales. So I'll be taking you through all of that and what I did and how I solved that. Exploratory data analysis is that always start your problem set with SQL. If you have Hive, if you have Cassandra, there are many ways you can do that, but always look at your data, the structure, the shape, anything that you can understand about it. So we're going to run some basic queries in SQL, and then we'll start from there. So one of the queries that I've already written over here was that I wanted to see for stores which have the name Walmart in them, what were the top 3 ranking items for each one of them for all of their categories. So this is the query I wrote. It runs pretty fast, and this is literally the fastest way you can get information on something. BigQuery has really changed the way we do our work. I use it at work almost every day, and it has really increased the speed of how I execute my queries. So let's start with a very basic query. Basically, what you want to do is you want to talk about what is the data, how does it look like, what are the different things, aspects of it. So you just do select star, you do limit 10. This gives you a feel about what your data looks like, so on and so forth. You can also look into how many stores you have. So you can do this thing. You can do count of distinct store number from this, and this will just give you the whole list. So there are about 2,448 stores, and there's a ton of different exercises that you can do. Some of the examples that you can see is using SQL for this. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do was to understand the range of my data. I know the data starts from January 2012, and it is as recent as 31st of August 2020. Yeah, so 31st of August 2020 and 3rd of January 2012. So the idea is that you want to work on it, but what I usually do in time series, you don't want to go back to all the years you have. I usually stick myself to 3 years, and but 3 years is quite enough for me to work with. So what I did is that I went ahead and I downloaded some of the data for myself, and I'm gonna take you guys through that. So let's start with the simple basic reasoning. We have EDA over here, and we'll start with that. One of the best things about Google Colab is that this is just available as a browser, so you don't have to really worry about having a good setup, having a a high RAM. You can just basically run everything off Google Colab, and you can sign up for Colab Pro also. But as we get started, there are some packages that I recommend you installing. You need to install them every time you refresh your notebook. These packages will be useful for the geomap location that I have. So as I explained earlier in my conversation, there are many tools available. SQL is one of them, Tableau is one of them, Python is one of them. I'm going to start with Python, and then I'm going to go to Tableau. So we're gonna run some of our packages now. For Google Colab, there are three ways that you can read your data. There is GCP, so basically you can directly read from BigQuery over here. That is recommended if you have smaller size of data. Google Drive is probably the best method. So my suggestion is that if you like a data set, you can just save results, and you have an option of you can save up to 1 GB in your Google Drive, and I think usually that's enough. What I have done is that I have created data everything beyond 2018, the 1st of January 2018, and I have saved that. The link over here is given you guys. I'll send you setup access for you all, so you can just download it. And my suggestion is that GCP is one version when you have a lot of to and fro from data, but if you're just reading your data once, just use Google Drive. This is the link I have, and this is probably the fastest. The third way to read data is through a CSV. Again, this is the slowest method of getting your data, but still, if you only have a drive link, this is the best way to go through it. Now, as we go through the data, so, and I've not made functions in my code. You would barely find any functions in my code because wanted to write the code as I'm running all the data for you. So as we run through our data, you'll see that basically the first thing you always do is to check for whether you have any nulls in your data. So store location and zip code and city. So there is consistently some lack of data over here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dump the data we don't need. And there are multiple ways you can do that also. I'm just doing drop NA over here, but usually what people do is that you can basically fill it up with a median. But if you do not know your store location, you probably should just delete your data. Or what you can do is you can look up the store number and you can find out where that store is. So as I mentioned previously that there's so many stores. So if you want to look at the store names, right? There's You'll find out that there's Walgreens, there's Hy-Vee, there's lots of spirits, and like there's so many of them over here. I'm most interested where I want to set up my problem is that I want to see how many Walmarts there are, and what I can do is just what I can do is I can write a query something like this, and I can just say wall dash mod, and I can just put something like this. So what this would do is that this would get me it will give me a results of all the matching here. So there are about 60 different Walmarts over here, and now what you can do is you can get more information about them, where they're located, what city they are in, so on and so forth. So you just do city, you just do zip code, you do store location, and once you run that, it will give you the results that you're looking for. And we find that there's some store locations which are null. So since I'm working with geo data, I don't want any store where there is a null. So basically I would say store location not null, right? Is not, sorry, oops. So a good thing is that you can always just check, a checkbox over here really helps you with making sure that your queries are correct. It's like an autocorrect. So now we have about 109. The query that you can write is about selecting distinct store from, and it always helps to divide your data like this. So divide your query like this, where store number is like Walmart and store location is not null, and it made a sale, at least one sale since 1st of January 2018. And when you run that data, it gives you about 54 different Walmart. So what we just did is that we just figured out, okay, these are the set of Walmarts that we're going to be working with. So just going back to Google Colab, we basically have, we sift through our data, and what I do is that I just go and find out, the list of Walmarts over here, and you see that this is the same number that we find over there. So I think the one best thing about SQL is that it's so fast and intuitive that you can find out some of the things that you are unsure about. And what we do is that we then create a data set with only Walmart in it. And one thing that I'm always interested in, it's to sort of map out where different stores are. So if you see, this is the longitude, latitude data available. So can we use that to our advantage? So what we're going to do is that we're going to split this into longitude and latitude and use it. So this function that I've written is going to help us with that. So one is for longitude, one is for latitude. We recreate them, we remove some duplicates, and then we create a sort of overview for every store, how many dollar sales they have sold since 2018 to current data, what is the latitude, what is the longitude. And then what we do is that I used another person's or another research Google Colab, and I used their code to actually map the geolocation, and this is how the geolocations look like. So basically, what you see here is the state of Iowa, and the bigger and the deeper red the spots are, it means that this many sales or the level of sales they have over here. And then there are quite a few other exploratory analysis that I've done over here. I was helped by this by one of our friends, Batul Fatma, on this, and you guys can go through this in the link. But before we do this, I want to share with you the Tableau work that I've done. And Tableau is sort of like a de facto tool that we use, Power BI or Tableau that we use, and it really helps explain the data. So it's the same data for basically all Walmarts, and what I did is that I mapped it on my Tableau, so you can actually zoom in, and it basically says that this is the store number, this is the zip code, this is the sales that they have. Then I have made the sales breakdown. So over the years, this was a very interesting year. I guess something interesting happened at this point because the sales were really high, and in all, you can say that this is a very close to being a stationary time series, because if you see the trend is just generally increasing just a little bit. Another interesting thing is this is where COVID happened. So there's definitely some interesting events happening over here due to COVID coming in and consumption of alcohol in that area. You can also do a drop down. You can find out, independently if there's anything you want to learn about an individual store. You can combine the sales. You can look at them separately. So Tableau is really fast and really good with that. Then you have sales by month. So across the years, how they have performed, and this is what's important, is that this really gives you a feedback on what happened previously and how can you use that information to predict the future. So one thing that stands out in EDA is that this seems more of an anomaly. And if this is an anomaly, should we just address, how do we address this? And how do we take it out? Do we put it in? And this is something that that you can just find out yourself very easily, and I'll take you through of what happened here. This is the breakdown by category, so we can find out that how much contribution it's coming from every category and how much an item, each item contributes. This is so basically this is the top selling item. So you have the Tito's handmade vodka as the highest selling all over, but you can also break it down. So, okay, how was 2018, how was 2019, like you just take it out and it will give you the information. So consistently this item has been doing really well. All right, and once you have put it all together, the best way is to put it together in a dashboard. And I love the opportunities that they have to offer in this way. So all the information I had, I can put it on one dashboard and I can go and find information about what's happening anywhere. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about there was a sale. There was an uptake of sales in the month of May. So you can just go drop down over here, and it takes a little time sometimes, but my laptop is a little old. So you go to May and you find out that May has the highest, and the next thing you do is that you can do a drop down in year, so you know that it was 2019. So you just click on that, you find out that okay, I just want to know what happened in May of 2019. So you can drill down and you can find out okay, what's going on everywhere. And the interesting part is this store right here seems to be performing the highest. Now if we take out that store, if you look at this store, it will give you another story of what happened here. And the best thing about Tableau is that it can sort of wherever you click, it then gives you information about that particular area. So now that I have clicked on the store, I'm getting information just what's happening in this store. So Tableau itself is very powerful. With great power comes great responsibility. So you have to be careful on how fast you move along that, and you have to be very careful in making sure that you do not push the buttons on this thing. Of course, there's 1 GB of data in this, so it's going to take some time to load. But I would suggest you to to play with Tableau to see all the things that it has to offer, and then find out the stories that you can identify using this. So this was the overview on how we did on Tableau. Now going back to the collab, we have what we can do is that we can reassign the data. We can convert the categories to lower pane, and then we find out what are the top categories. We find out what their names are, and also consistent with what you see over here is American vodka, Canadian whiskey, spice rum, straight bar bourbon. They're all over here, and they're all in the same orders. And you can go further down. You can find the best ones over here. And what we can do is that, so the idea to show you is that you can do some things that are similar in Python in Tableau, and there's nothing wrong in using Tableau for information query and understanding what's going on. So just running this data over here, you see we can continue to keep running those. We create different days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so forth, so on and so forth. We get how the sales are usually. So this is the interesting part. There are some states which are called dry states in US, and in those states you do not have any sales for a particular weekday. And what we do now is that knowing from Tableau, we picked up some of the top category names and we plot them, and this just shows how the sales has been. There has been, from this data it seems there is certain decline, but it also, because of the fact that the year 2020 is not complete, this you can also look into this graph, that this graph looks quarterly. We can go visit and see what happened over here, and then you can continue to go through this. And find out about items and stuff. You can look at how the sales have changed across time. And I'm just running this right now on the go. There seems to be some issue with the sizing, as you can see over here, but we'll continue with that. So eventually, my reasoning to take you through this is to give you a very good understanding on how to get started on your problem. We started with looking at, hey, how many stores there are. There were about 2,000 stores. We went down and reduced our scope to 54 stores. We drew the map. We see where they are. Another interesting part was that if you want to consider sales. Now, the interesting part is that this area, this region over here, where sales you see might be higher than usual, is because this is a metropolitan area, and this is where a lot of people live. So you can always correlate that. So if you see here, Des Moines is one of the major cities in that state. So you can see that near that metro area, there are more Walmarts, and what they have done is that it's very intuitive to say that. But when you do not have data, when you have just sales number, you can't draw out from that. So it's always good to put something on a geolocation, look at the population around that. It sort of gives you an idea about what's going on. We wrap up our work on exploratory data analysis. So all this data, all these the work I've done in Tableau, the work I've done on Google Colab is available in the link on the deck that I have shared. Apart from that, you can also find this information on my GitHub. So this is my GitHub. So if you haven't seen this before, feel free to go through it. If you are already a more senior data scientist and ML person, you can actually go through some of my other notebooks. I've worked on PySpark. I've made other stuff, so which I'll be using for future tutorials. And you can actually look at the same image of the Tableau dashboard that I've created. With this, I will end my tutorial. Feel free to reach out, ask questions. But one thing I would suggest is that try building this dashboard in Tableau or in Python for another store. You can pick up Target, you can pick up Walgreens, and sort of see what you can learn from them. So if you go back here and you say just run wall over here, what you will get is that there are a lot of Walmarts over here, and there's Walgreens. So Walgreens is another brand, another store brand that we have. So you just run Walgreens, and what it will do is that it will tell you, okay, there are about 66 Walgreens around. Why don't you guys take an effort and put together information on Walgreens and see what you can learn about it. Until then, thank you so much, everyone.